the next question is this good? Is equilibrium a good outcome? And the place that I want to start is to note that there's no way to increase surplus by producing a different quantity or by rearranging which consumers consume the good and which producers produce the good. In other words, we'll back up a slide for a second. In other words, suppose that we gave the good to some of these consumers and had some of these producers produce it, some of the high-cost producers and low marginal valuation produce it, right? Consume it. There's no way we could improve on this level of surplus. These units, if we wanted to produce 125 units of the good, this would be a good that is relatively expensive to produce, has a high opportunity cost of production, and is relatively lowly valued, has a low marginal valuation by the marginal consumer. So this, if we produced unit number 125, the cost of producing it would exceed the benefit of producing it. Right? Everything to the left of equilibrium, everything to the left of unit number 100 is providing a net benefit that is positive. The value that it gives to the marginal consumer is higher than the cost that it gives to the marginal producer. So in that sense, equilibrium is a good outcome. Equilibrium gives us the maximum amount of consumer surplus. It maximizes the gains from trade. One way economists often value or evaluate how a market is working is by using something called the Pareto criterion. The Pareto criterion says this. It says an allocation is Pareto efficient if there is no way to make anyone better off without hurting someone else. Market equilibrium leads to a Pareto efficient allocation of resources in many cases. In the sort of standard textbook case, the market equilibrium is Pareto efficient, and so there's no way to make somebody better off without hurting someone else. And this is a good, oftentimes a good and desirable feature of markets. We note this, that if we move away from equilibrium, right, either by producing less than the equilibrium quantity or producing more than the equilibrium quantity, we generate welfare losses. A very famous passage in economics comes from Adam Smith in his 1776 book, The Wealth of Nations. I'll read it. Adam Smith says, he intends only his own gain, and he is in this, as in many other cases, led by an invisible hand to promote an end which was no part of his intention. Nor is it always the worst for society that it was no part of it. By pursuing his own interest, he frequently promotes that of the society more effectually than when he really intends to promote it. What does this mean? What it means is what Smith is observing is that market outcomes generate this maximum consumer surplus and producer surplus, this maximum combination of surplus. That if we try and change things, if we go in and dabble in markets, if we try to change things, we will move them away from this efficient outcome. And this efficient outcome comes about just by allowing free markets to function. Right? So if we want to intervene, we do so at some potential cost in efficiency.